Good morning, Joy Tribe. Oh my goodness, we are back at the Joy Villa show. It is June 18th at the time of this show. If you are watching live, please leave me a comment down below. If you're watching the replay, what up, replay crew? Leave me a comment. We had a ton of replay crew on yesterday's episode about Will Smith's awful new song. It was spicy. The comments were the video and the song are not spicy, trust me, but you don't want to miss that episode. I loved everybody's opinion on it. Everyone was going, what in the heck is Will Smith doing? If you want to watch that, go ahead and check the last episode. Today is episode 64. Can you believe it, of the Joy Villa show? And by the way, if it's your first time watching, please like, subscribe, share, help the algorithm out, help your girl out. My name is Joy Villa. This is the Joy Villa show. We talk about faith, freedom, finance, fitness, and family, the 5 pillars of joy. And today is a very special episode. I'm so excited. It's not just the coffee, guys, although grab your coffee, your protein shakes, what have you, because this episode is going to be full of good vibes, full of a survivor story that you definitely want to hear, laughs, humor. It's just going to be the best. I have a very special guest. Her name is Liz Gail. You guys know her online and in the chat. Miss Liz Gail. And she's all over TikTok. She's got videos. She is a 3rd generation Scientology survivor. What does that mean? That means she was born into Scientology from her grandparents. I'm going to let her tell the story. She's an incredible author, an artist, a speaker, an advocate, a mom, and she is telling her story. She's not going to be quiet, which I love that. We love mouthy women on the Joy Villa show. I mean, if you can't tell, right? So please welcome to the show, everybody. We have got 50 viewers, and as you guys come in, hit that like and subscribe button. Welcome to the Joy Villa show. Coming to the stage, Miss Liz Gail.
Woo! That was one pep talk. Hi, everybody. Great to be here.
I'm so happy you're on the show. We were chatting it up right before the show, and I was like, okay, we've got to have you on and talk about this because it's just so fun. You are a Scientology survivor, 3rd generation. I want you to tell your story. I know you have a book, Confessions of an Ex-Scientologist Pothead. Mm-hmm. She's like, some people don't like the title. I'm like, no, it's great. It's you. It's what you're doing. And obviously in Scientology, you get in trouble for smoking weed or, whatever people's view are. But that's a very pot is seen as in Scientology, it's seen as crack, right? There's no difference. It's like you smoke pot once, big no in Scientology. Yeah.
It's true. I did a lot of big no-nos. Yeah. So, hi everybody. I can give you a brief rundown of me.
Please tell us your story.
So I was born, like you said, into Scientology. My family got into it from my maternal grandmother. So she was in the 1950s into science fiction. I recently found out and lived in California and got a hold of Dianetics very early on. I guess she loved it. She went all in. So by the time my mom was born, my grandma was 40. She was kind of a late surprise baby. And so by then she was totally all in. So my mom was raised completely with Dianetics, Scientology. And for some of you know what that means. For others that you don't, it means that every aspect of your life is guided by the principles and the writings of L. Ron Hubbard. So everything from how you would deal with a baby, how you would deal with a skinned knee, what education that child would have, what expectations that child would have, all of those things. Whoa, hi.
Hey, that's you.
Yeah, that's me. I went to all Scientology schools. I lived at the meccas of Scientology off and on. I was at Flag when I was a little kid. I was at Celebrity Center International, which is where Joy lived in my teenage years. So I was just a public, right? I was on staff a little bit. I did sign my Sea Org contract, but mostly it was a paying public. My parents had some cash, and so I was a cash cow. And
what does that mean, cash cow?
Well, it means that when I would run into developmentally appropriate issues as a child, they would send me somewhere, either a Scientology church or a like Mace Kingsley, a third party that does Scientology, like under the umbrella of the church, and they would pay for me to receive services to, fix me or whatever it was.
I want to say too, I mean, that's pretty normal for parents, right? Who want to help their kids. They think that they're helping their kids. So it's like, they paid for your services. I mean, for the audience who's just tuning in, I was in Scientology for 15 years, from 23. So I ended up paying for my own services, but they're extremely expensive. And then I got married and my husband helped pay for my services. And then I made money, I paid. But in Scientology, you're always paying for services. So you have to figure it out because it's a big thing. It's like it's over your head because it's not like it's like, all right, it starts with a $50 course or $100 course. And then it becomes, $2,500 for the next course, $5,000 for the next block of auditing, or $3,500. Different churches, different places have different prices, but it's not cheap, guys. Scientology, but most people know that, but it's so expensive. So your parents paid, I mean, a parent would pay for, fencing lessons, horseback riding, art lessons, ballet. Instead, your parents are putting you in these courses and these sessions where you're getting, confessional sessions and different things, to try to handle you. Could you mind saying like some of these things that developmental things, was it just normal stuff? Or did you have some things where it was like, oh, she's becoming a problem child? I kind of feel like you were a bit of a problem child.
Oh yeah, for sure. Did I give the problem child vibe, Joy?
Problem child.
Yeah. It's kind of ridiculous in some ways. There's a lot of cognitive dissonance because in Scientology, how do I explain this? So I went to an elite Scientology boarding school. I went to the Delphian school at 8 years old. So before that, I wouldn't say I was as problematic before that, but honestly, something happened to me. I'm not even totally sure what it was, but I was safe and then I wasn't safe. And once I wasn't safe, I did become problematic. I actually, now, like that I'm older, I have kids, I look back and I've had some counseling. I used to do this thing where I would become so problematic that wherever I was, because I was rarely at home with my parents, one of my parents, my mom usually, would have to be called and she would have to come. And it was this weird relationship where she would swoop in and like kind of be my savior, kind of advocate for me. Sometimes she would be like, oh, you're not following this policy, because my mom is an expert. And yet the only reason I was in that situation was because I wasn't living at home with my parents. So
you were just a little girl. So you were 8 years old and you probably felt a little bit abandoned. I am very much against boarding schools. I lived in Europe for years. It's very common over there. And I just kind of go, what? I get it if the kid is maybe like 15, 16, high school age, and then moving into college, and it's some sort of preparatory, prep school to a big, that's right. Prep school. I can get that because you're a teenager and teenagers kind of want to live on their own anyways at that age. You get like those, hormones and all this stuff. But an 8-year-old is a baby girl who needs to have her mommy and daddy with her.
I know. It's so sad and hard to think about. My brother was also sent to Delphi at the same boarding school at 8 years old. And I think it actually comes down to Dianetics, because in the first works of Scientology, before Scientology, it started with this one book, Dianetics, for anybody who doesn't know. And in that, L. Ron Hubbard defined the relationship between body, spirit, and mind. And everything in Scientology is built on that understanding of how it works. And so in Dianetics, they say at 8 years old, a child is really ready for you to, like, I think the words are crack down on their case, which means they're basically, it's the green light developmentally to go full Scientology. I was actually, before I went to Delphi, I actually was sec checked, which means security checked, for my own benefit by my mother in our office, home office. And I think that was also extremely traumatic.
Oh my gosh. And I don't want to stop you because it's so good, but I want people to see what a sec check is. SEC, security check. These are intense, guys. Intense.
Intense. In fact, the first
confessionals, there is another word for it, but there's two types of confessional auditing. One is for your benefit to relieve yourself of your overts or sins in Scientology. And this is one of the nastiest, grossest thing about Scientology is that you have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars and have thousands and thousands of hours and give up everything you've ever done. Now, there is a therapeutic element to it, as there is with everything in Scientology. So you feel like it's actually doing something good because you get to say things that have been hidden. And, it's good. What's done in the dark comes out in the light. So the Bible says, but they twist it to where then you have to give every single nitty gritty detail. Now, as a child, what kind of freaking things? I mean, okay, yeah, I stole the cookie. I slapped my brother. It's like, and then you have to go into when was it? Where was it? So I was very highly trained as a Scientology minister to deliver these. They are brutal because they can last hours and hours and hours. And a lot of times you don't even know. They're trying to find where is it? Where is it? Find it. And you are trained to give this very, it's a stern, you must give me the answer, and you don't let the person slide away. You have to, like, not even person's crying. You don't even respond to the tears. You don't stop the session. You keep going because they have crimes. They have overts. You have to find, you have to get, and if it's a confessional, you get kind of forgiven, and those things just go in your folder forever. They can be brought up later, but if it's a security check, you have to then handle each and one of those things you talked about, even though it was in a safe session, outside of the session with an ethics officer. So to do that to a child is like, it's insane. I mean, this is like CIA dark tactics. This is military tactics, no religion. Even Catholics who have confessed to a prince, I mean, I guess you say Hail Marys. I'm not Catholic. I understand that you say this to someone, and then you don't have to then face the person and write up tons of things and read all these references. Anyways, so that's what a confessional is, a security check. So you were how old?
That one, I was late 7 or 8. I was 8. I was 7 or 8. Yeah. And so yes, that is actually one of my biggest problems with Scientology. Surprise. And I think it's a good talking point because it's ridiculous. But then the security check for children is actually designated for children 6 to 12 years old. It has 99 questions. And so just like Joy said, you're sitting still holding the cans of an e-meter because you need to have an electrical current from that device going through your body. Which means as a child, you are expected to sit very, very still for long periods of time. It took, I think, over a week. Honestly, I don't remember, Joy. I honestly don't remember all of it.
That makes sense because I don't remember a lot of my sessions. And that's what's so worrisome about this, Liz. It's like they tell you, they indoctrinate you and tell you, we want to make you more aware, to make the able more able. And we don't use hypnotism. That's the bad guys. But I feel like I was hypnotized in those sessions because I would come out blank with this weird euphoric feeling, this relief, but I can't, I mean, you could put me under a freaking microscope and say, what did you say in those sessions? And I would probably remember like 3 or 4 things after 15 years and thousands of sessions, thousands of hours.
Right.
Crazy. So you don't even remember what was happening or what was said or what you said.
I mean, I remember bits and pieces, but I don't remember the whole week or, and we had, so in Scientology also, like Joy said, you're putting everything into a folder. And then in my family's case, okay, this is where I get a little, you guys are going to hear me have a little cognitive dissonance here. You're going to hear me rattle around. I'm still working this out.
Absolutely. And everybody be kind in the comments because Liz is a survivor. So, and my audience is kind. They know I've been telling my story, my testimony, and any haters will be blocked. So be kind because people who haven't been in Scientology don't realize how strong the pull is, how much they isolate you and indoctrinate you and coerce you. And she's a child. I was 23 and I felt all that. She is a baby girl. Okay. Yeah. Kids born into Scientology have zero control over what they're taught and what they're forced to learn and what they're forced to do and obey and live by. So this is a serious cult satanic programming. So everybody fine. So go, Liz, speak your truth, girl.
I appreciate it. I believe that my mom thought she was being the best parent she could be because she was like believing that through Scientology. And this is where I go back and forth because sometimes I'm very angry at her and I think she must have known, this is awful.
Mm.
But my instinct says she was raised in this to believe, like she did the first OT8. She was actually on the maiden voyage of the Free Wind. So for anybody who doesn't know, Scientology has high confidential levels that are only given on a boat, and you have to go there. You have to be invited.
A cruise ship.
Yes, a cruise ship. My mom was like so involved. She was on the maiden voyage. Like when they actually put that cruise ship out in the water for the first time, she was there.
That's
She
a
did the
huge thing.
first in like 1989, the first OT8. So she was at the very top of Scientology's Bridge to Total Freedom in 1989. So my whole life.
Oh my gosh. And that's the one where they tell you where L. Ron Hubbard said that he's Lucifer and he's trying to stop Jesus from coming back because he's part of the Markabian. He's an alien implant, Jesus is, and that the Bible is kooky, but it got one thing right that Lucifer exists, but he's actually the good guy, and that's L. Ron Hubbard.
Right.
And that's the truth revealed. And that every single session you've been in, all the alien bodies you had to audit out and all the alien incidents, now you go through them and you find out which ones are your actual lifetime. And then that's the truth revealed. Wow. And you pay to get to, I don't know by those prices in the 80s, but in 90s, but now it would be about $350,000 US to get to that level, give or take.
Yeah.
You were born to your mom who already had reached that top of the bridge.
Yes. And I just want to be super clear with everybody that she did so much of that before she, when her children were young, because she truly believed that she was giving us the best chance.
Yeah.
So as insane as it sounds, to security check me before sending me off to boarding school was for my benefit, because it was to, release me, unburden me, so that when I went there, I had a clean, fresh spiritual slate.
Yeah.
Which is hard to, as my healing has gone, and I'm a mom, like you mentioned, and when my children hit these ages, sometimes it throws me back to it. I have a 10 going on 11-year-old son, and sometimes he is age appropriate. He is great. But if I sent him off to just feed himself, do his laundry, take care of himself, get everywhere, do everything, it would be a challenge. I mean, when I first went to that boarding school, this is kind of embarrassing, but I'll tell you guys, I had never been constipated before, and I didn't know what it was. And I was like, something's wrong with me. And you have a parent teacher. So I had to go to this lady who I'd kind of just met and like talk to her about this. And I was really embarrassed. This turned out to be the lady who helped me when I got my first period, taught me how to shave my legs. I lived at boarding school, guys. I grew up there. And anyway, long story short, guess what? You can't eat white bread and butter every meal of the day for a week. Shocker. I didn't know these things.
You were just a little girl, and that's comfort food. You wanted comfort.
I did. And it smelled good. That I will say, of all the things at Delphi, their fresh bread, like I was like a little, there's like a little, the cartoon where you float by your nose. Like,
oh
yeah.
Girl, I love me some bread too. I love me some bread.
They didn't have real butter though. So I think if they had real butter, I would have gone insane and I would have just never stopped
just eating butter out of the tub.
Yeah, but that crappy margarine snapped me in my senses. Anyway, so it's things like that. These developmental things that if you're not preparing a child from birth to take care of themselves at 8, they don't have the skills.
They don't. And I would say also there's skills that you learn as you raise your kid. I would never think. I had a stepdaughter who's a Scientologist. Unfortunately, my ex-husband's a Scientologist still. And she's special needs. And she came into my life at 8. So she's special needs. She's autistic. She's some developmental, like very extreme on the spectrum. Could not look me in the eye when I met her. Couldn't speak, would only say a few words, she was 8. But even getting her up to the level where she can basically, tie her own shoes was very hard. She never progressed past 8, basically. She got better, but she stayed like an 8-year-old, and now she's 19 and she acts like an 8-year-old. And I mean, that's what the doctor said. She's very developmentally 8, and that's not being able to take care of yourself.
Right.
So when we talk about an 8-year-old, that's not a 12-year-old even. Kids change so much in 1 year. 8 is very much, I still need mommy and daddy. I still need to learn things. And even if your parents taught you every single thing they could by that age, there's going to be things you need to learn, like your period and body things, and that you need parents to be near you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I didn't get abandoned as a kid, would you say?
Yeah, for sure. Not just that, but I think that the school was not really a safe place for me. I wasn't like horribly physically abused there or anything, but it wasn't a good place for me. It wasn't a place where I felt safe, heard, seen, cared for, or had an advocate. And I'm surprised and irritated that does still affect me to this day. Those feelings, that type of fear that it's still in my body. I'm still working through it. And it's not just the 8-year-old thing. That happens a lot. From my experience in Scientology, like you said earlier, you don't have the agency to say no. You cannot say no to these things. It's not an option. And if you try to say no, you might have heard stories of other survivors like biting or kicking their way out of these. If you really, really want to get out, maybe there's a way, but it will put you in a lower, like you'll get in more trouble.
Oh yeah. No, kids can't consent. Kids cannot consent. And this isn't the same thing as a religion where you're taught an idea. Right. Religions and cults are very different, because a religion, you're taught an idea and you do go to church and you do pray and you do certain things that, follow your religion, whether you're Christian, Jewish, Muslim. And there's a lifestyle to some, many religions, but it's more of a heart change and a few things. A cult is where you must do certain actions, and Scientology is all about doing. They used to talk about doing this action. So you don't just, I'm a Scientologist in my heart and and I study a few things and I go once a week. No, you have to be completely immersed in the Scientology actions. It's every single day you are run by policy. That's why your mom, who is also victimized, must run her children by policy. As an OT8 top of the bridge, they're on her like white on rice. She better have her kid. If you have a tantrum, which is normal for a kid, she's in trouble. Is she PTS? She needs to go get another session. She needs to go back on the ship and get indoctrinated. What's wrong with her? So there is a huge magnifying glass on Scientologists, much like cults, Jehovah's Witnesses, because the group controls your actions, every single action. And I remember that manipulative mind control. So for a kid to get out of that, how? Well, you're going to run away? You don't have anybody. Kids don't do that. Kids are easy to control and manipulate. That's why they're children, and that's why they must be cared for, because they're babies. They're little kids. Yeah.
Yeah. And the world's just almost, I feel like, getting more complicated and creeping into our homes more with our kids. I feel like they almost need us more than ever.
Absolutely. They're precious. Yeah. They're precious. And that's why I do believe it takes a village to raise a kid, because if any child you see, you have a responsibility to help them, to see if they're in distress, to talk to them, to listen to them. They don't have to be your kid. Well, I don't want to. No, is this child looking distressed? Does this child need some help? And you're an adult, help them, right? Kids need help.
They do.
So, well, and I don't know if anybody you could have talked to that wasn't in Scientology.
I mean, my father's family was never involved. So I was sent to my grandmother, my dad's mom's house, like in the summers which is funny. Like, go to boarding school all year, come home for summer, go to grandma. Like, why did you have kids?
Never saw your parents.
I mean, I guess, yeah. My mom was a professional Scientologist, truly. She was always public, but she was a national spokesperson for CCHR, which is a front group of Scientology that rallies against psychiatric drugs, psychiatrists, which, to be honest, I'm not all for, I think you and I actually have similar beliefs about, quote, psych meds or over drugging children, all these different things. And so at the face value, there are some things with this group that I do still align with.
Totally.
But you just pull back the curtain a little and I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah, big pharma is awful. I
For
mean,
sure.
you cut it. So that's
sure.
Scientology sets themselves up as the good guys against big pharma as the bad guys, right? So, and it's the Citizens Commission on Human Rights. That's CCHR. That is your mom was the public relations spokesperson for the Citizens Commission on Human Rights. Who could disagree with CCHR? And what do you do? Well, we eradicate this pain and suffering in mental health. We clean up mental health. We get kids off psych drugs, get kids off medications, parents off medications, and help with natural solutions. Everyone can agree. It's just like these front groups for any dark, satanic, demonic or, a coercive group. They always have a front group that shines something very light. And I agreed with all the front groups and I still agree with them. The problem is they're front groups. They don't actually do what they say and they don't actually clean up mental health unless it benefits Scientology. And they use it to both manipulate the public so that you'll be drawn in and manipulate current Scientologists so that you'll give money. Oh, well, look what we're doing. We need another 50 grand. That's right. That's what they would do with me. I'd be crying. Oh, just help the kids here. Let me write a check. It's all abuse. It's all abuse and it's abuse at different levels. But at a child level, there's zero excuses for what Scientology does to children. I'm so glad you're sharing your story. Don't let me interrupt.
No, you're
passionate. I'm like, I get upset at this.
I love it. So after Delphi, actually, my brother was very smart. I'm smart. He was computer smart, book smart. He was like a poster child for the Delphi education. He graduated at 14. He got accepted to MIT at 15. Then he left. And I don't know if you know Sky Dayton. So Delphi is the boarding school I've been talking about. That's what I call it Delphi. You can Google it. It's called the Delphian now. But I'm going to keep calling it Delphi, just so you guys know. Another graduate, he started Earthlink, which was an internet provider, internet startup. And my brother basically worked on the first Internet Explorer, right? So he was like at 15 and he, it's really crazy. I don't want to get into the weeds too much, but a highly Scientologized workplace for him. And he was a minor, but he got emancipated. I found out he was getting security checked at his work. Just very Scientological.
And that's common in a Scientology workplace. Half of Clearwater runs their businesses like that. That's just American Power and Gas, which is run by Scientologists. They literally, what's his name? The main donator for American Power and the owner. And you can invest in American Power and Gas, or multi-million-dollar company, and they have course rooms. Flag actually shuts down whole course rooms for the owner of American Power and Gas. I'm forgetting his name. I blank out on some of these names. I knew him very well.
I don't know his name.
Multi-million-dollar donator, Michael something. And they would have a whole course room where the people who work for him would go and study Scientology. Like 300 people. And at Flag in Clearwater. And these are not Scientologists. So imagine your boss is like, now we're going to go take this course. It's for your own good. And of course you're going to take it because you want to keep your job. Like that's what.
And I think that happens frequently, actually. So I went to a parents thing at my son's college, and I don't talk. I'm not just like, hey, I'm the next Scientologist, everybody. Like, this is my jam. But it did come up in conversation.
You don't have like a little button, Scientology?
Yeah, right?
How I stayed.
Yeah, I just wear a shirt that's like, those PIs are with me. I'm with stupid. And then I'll just be like, that's stupid.
Oh, hilarious. Oh my gosh. That's actually funny. You should have a t-shirt that says
one of the moms I don't know what industry she's in, but super professional, obviously doing well lady. She flew out and, they've rented a house for everybody and stuff. So I think they're doing well, career-wise. She said, my boss flew us down to Clearwater. We had to do some courses, and then they were supposed to stay 2 days after. She said, we were so creeped out. We called and we were like, we want to leave. Can we leave early? And their boss was like, of course you can leave early. And hearing that story, I didn't say it at the time, but I was just like, wow. first of all, she's a grown woman. She can go book a flight on her own. It's just she was sent there by work. So she was, trying to play nice.
Of course.
But yeah, she was like, it was so creepy. And I didn't.
Oh, that is creepy. And by
It
the
was
way, I
weird.
think a lot of people gaslight adults in Scientology too, like
Yeah.
saying, you're in a grown-up, you could have walked away. Yet technically, just like a kid can
Right.
physically walk. The mental
Right.
manipulation, torture. This is why the FBI and the police, they need these stories because it's like, okay, were you raped? Were you
Right.
essayed? Okay, no, fine. That's a lot of them. It's just so black and white, and they
Right.
think, why hasn't Scientology been cut down and shut down and taken
Mhm.
the IRS tax exemption status
Mhm.
away? Well, because they need more of these testimonials, these stories, which, by the way, down below, you can email your Scientology survival stories. There is a law firm, I just want to say quickly, that is taking on the case, Andrews and Thornton. And the emails are down below. You can screenshot that and just please email your survival story, no matter how little. Did they just take money and not give you what they promised? Well, that's illegal to promise something and not deliver it. It can be as simple as that to the extreme cases. But when you have mental manipulation, it is so deep because everybody knows when you put somebody in a door or in a room, you close the door and you're nice and you tell the person, hey, you're going to do what I say in a nice tone with great eye contact in a clean room. People are polite. You don't want to leave. How many people do you see? It's not a movie where you're like, I opened the door and I slammed the door in their face. And I said, F you, Scientology. And I left. I would have done that if I was an adult in Scientology. No, you wouldn't have. Did you do that to your ex's family or your ex when you were in a situation, or when the rude person cut in line? No, because in society, we're polite, we're kind. It's not normal, especially if somebody's kind to you, to do that. People don't just get up and cuss people off and say, oh, I'm never coming back. I think, are you serious? People get victimized every single day by subtle manipulation, and Scientology has it down to an art, to a science. So compassion.
And I did do that actually many times where I was like, I'm out of here. Like,
you did
stuff. Oh yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
how did they get you back?
I mean, most of that time I was in somebody else's possession. I wasn't at home. I lived somewhere where the entire purpose was Scientology. So usually it's hard labor. I mean, I say hard labor. It wasn't as hard labor as the Sea Org, but basically work. I'm at boarding school, you do scullery or, what's funny is as I've gotten out and I'm older and I've talked to more people, my boarding school actually ran just like the Sea Org. We had this, like the musters and the bed checks and all the different terminology and, the restriction and all these different things. Because it was it is where it is the prime place to indoctrinate, So if you did get somebody out of Delphi, they were ready to be an executive.
Oh my gosh. Literally, it's the Sea Org prep school.
It is. And, Tom Cruise's nannies, John Travolta's nannies, it is also a nanny pool. Because according to Scientology, you can't, if you're a true believer in Scientology, you would never trust your child with somebody who wasn't a Scientologist.
Never. That's right.
So,
you have to, and that's what the cult goes so deep. It's every single person around Scientologists, like you said, who are a true believer, who've been in, they hire people from Scientology and they hire Sea Org ex-Sea Org members, right? When you leave the Sea Org, you have zero skill. You have skills that you learned in there, but it's not like you get certificates. It's not like, same with Delphi, I'm sure, right? It's not like you learn these skills and could you apply them? I guess you could apply them in the outside world, but it's not like you got a certificate. Did you get certificates of this, and this? Was it useful?
I'm trying to think. No, not specifically. We did all the what am I going to say? The study technology, like the basic study manual. There's all these courses that you do to learn how to study in Scientology. We did all of those. Actually, the curriculum. This is something I'm going to tackle, and I'll just briefly summarize. But basically, this particular school is not technically associated with Scientology anymore. They just follow and use L. Ron Hubbard's philosophies and written works on integrity, ethics, so all these different things, which literally means that their curriculum is studying L. Ron Hubbard's quoted technology, like quoted articles, different things, the very same things that are part of Scientology scripture, but they package it and sell it as secular.
Wow.
And
Like the way to happiness.
Yep. And it bothers me. It really bothers me.
Because it's a front group.
Yeah, the way to happiness, I don't have so many problems with, because I'm like, these are all really basic things. Like, don't be promiscuous, or I don't even know any others. That was the one I had to read all the time.
Oh yeah, I became a happiness rundown auditor, so I know it very well. Right? Don't be promiscuous. Respect your parents. Be temperate, which is don't drink too much alcohol. Right? Honor and respect your parents. A government run by, for the people, for all. Basic tenets that they take from the Constitution and the 10 Commandments. And he repackaged it, took out God, took out anything that's religious, and calls it, like you said, a secular, a non-religious moral code. Now, these are good morals. The thing is, Scientologists run their life by good morals. Individually, you really will meet a group of people who are very clean cut, honest. Yeah. They're forced to be that way, though. That's the thing. It's a culture of treat others as you'd want to be treated. There are some very good things within that culture dynamic, but that's like all cults, right? They have this way of life, but it's also such a high way of life that it's very hard not to break those things. And when you do break them, there is quite a punishment for it. Yep.
High expectation group is when I first heard that, because the word cult gets thrown around so much. Sometimes it loses what it means. And, but I really like the high expectation or high control group, because it is that it's this constant expectation that you fail at, because it's either not developmentally appropriate. It's just, it's not an appropriate expectation. And
that's a really good point, Liz. It's set up for failure. High coercion, high control group. I love these things, because it's like, it sounds good and you want to meet those expectations, but then like a child, how can they meet those expectations? How can somebody who, and it's not set up for different cultures. Different cultures have different morals and different ethnic expectations and different things. And there's the law, don't break the law that we have. And then there is a moral integrity thing that every individual has. The problem is Scientologist tells you what that's supposed to be. Scientology tells you that. They say, oh, you have your individual morals, but you never really do. Because if I were to say, well, it's my moral to be able to, pray and go in session, and great, can you not pray while you're in session, because that's mixing practices? Like, but that's my integrity. No. Well, we need you to run it the way we want. Oh no, you can be Christian. You can do what you want, but you need to do it our way. You can do whatever you want as long as it's what we tell you to.
Oh, I heard so many versions of that. Like, I really want you to say whatever you want, but you should probably be careful saying that. Like,
tell us more of those subtle, because it's so good for people to hear, like you said.
Oh yeah,
it's not like, oh, they're wearing, they're like ritualistic, cutting people. People think that, and it's a very extreme version of it. No, these are subtle control manipulations. What other things do people say to you to get you to do something?
Well, I think one of the big ones was always like kind of talking you up, like you're a big being, you're a high-toned Thetan. These are like Scientology compliments.
I'm getting a visceral reaction to hearing those things. Oh God, it's so
I should have given you a trigger warning.
I literally, my palms are sweating right now. Oh God, it's so gross, because that's what they would say.
Yeah, and they want you, and like, I'm a bubbly personality. In fact, the short time I was on staff, I was a public executive secretary. So like, I talk to people, I'm friendly, I'm outgoing. But it is ironic that they focus on ethics and they focus on responsibility and focus on integrity, because I kind of laugh thinking, you guys realize you created your own monsters, right? Like, you literally, okay. If my true integrity, if I'm really being true to my integrity, it means I better stand up and tell people how dangerous Scientology is for children.
Okay.
So now I kind of have to. So
that's right.
I don't know.
That's your ethics. It's unethical. It's your ethics, right? And if you tell that to an ethics officer, I mean, just the terminology, ethics officer, right? Mm. What church has an ethics officer? Like, what religion, what group that wants to help you has an officer?
Officer. Yeah. Yeah, officer. And they really are an officer. They really are. Like, I mean, they're going to come and
Cold.
they're going to be stern and they're going to find your crimes and they're going to assign you, lower conditions
Yep.
or tell you have to
Yep.
do X, Y, Z and it's not good enough and
Yep.
all these different things.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
the punitive arm.
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
But when I left Delphi, I actually got kicked out. I
Oh,
was,
bad
again,
girl.
problematic.
Bad girl
Yeah.
talking
Well,
about bad girl.
I actually stole a lot, which is like not okay. I would steal change and candy. I was hungry and sad. It's not okay to
Unacceptable,
steal
Liz.
ever.
Unacceptable for a Scientology
I know.
child with OTAs, candy and change.
I know.
Not
I
believe
know.
it.
Terrible. I mean, it wasn't like it's not cool to do that. I understand.
Yeah,
that.
but it's not cool, but it's not something that's like kids don't do. Like
Yeah,
kids do
exactly.
not cool
And I didn't
things because they're kids.
right. And I wasn't I mean, this sounds like a justification, but just looking back at myself at that age, I definitely wasn't trying to steal something to like have somebody else's stuff, to like covet it or own it. I really just I wanted a snack at the rec room. I mean, I
Liz,
wanted a
can I
pretzel with
say
cheese.
something?
Sorry.
You were a child who
Yeah.
just wanted something of your own.
It's
Everything
true.
was taken from you. You
Yeah.
were a victim. There's no
Yeah.
justification needed. It's not. We're
Yeah.
not Scientologists up in here anymore.
Well,
If
I
you
don't want
look-
any kids watching to think that they'll be happy if they steal things.
No, well, of course not. But
Yeah.
kids know, and stealing is not good. But when a child is put in such a high control, coercive situation where you have nothing of your own, and in Scientology, it really is you own nothing. It's the group, it's other people, responsibility, it's everything's put above, and they might tell you that's yours, but it's not yours. The cups, the sheets, everything in a boarding school, it's not yours. Your parents, you don't even get to own your parents, even right? Because you didn't really know them much.
Yeah.
In a true sense. So for you to take candy and you wanted something happy, I know that feeling. You wanted something of your own. You were a little girl and and maybe you wanted a little attention and love. Maybe you also wanted other things that you want,
Oh, I definitely wanted that.
You were traumatized. So it's like, okay, kids have done worse and gotten less. It's just kids make mistakes. That's all it is.
Well, and in that environment, if you are making mistakes, so the solution to when I was 12, I got in trouble and I got suspended from Delphi and for this. And the solution was actually to send me to live with my mother's friend's daughter, who was 20, right outside Flag, like right there on Drew Street, upstairs of some Greek food place, and do my TRs and objectives, which is basically, I'll sum it up in regular terms. I get in trouble at boarding school. My parents' solution is to send me to live with somebody else, pay not just my room and board there, but I think it was like $3,000 or something for my TRs and objectives. So every day I would wake up, I would go to Flag, walk down the street, go to Flag on my own, and I would do, with my partner, I would do training routines for hundreds of hours of just back and forth where I would do her, she would do me. And it was these really repetitive, they're called objectives. They're processes that are meant to bring you into present time, but they are pure indoctrination. In fact, the upper ones are called the upper indoctrination drills.
They played right in our faces, Liz. They played right in our freaking faces.
And I didn't realize at the time, because you're training to be an auditor, right? So you need to learn how to control somebody. That's what you're learning. And even some of these drills are called body control. Like you are literally learning to, and depending on what the person says, you learn the response. If they say something general that has nothing to do with them, you ignore it. If they say something about them, you quickly acknowledge it, cut it off, and ignore it. So that you learn all these things. And at the time, I thought I was learning to do it to somebody else. Now that I look back, I realize that I was actually also being trained to be controlled. That's what it was.
Wow.
So that's the solution.
Wow.
Again, trouble at boarding school, get sent down to Flag. Now, at this same time, you might hear other ex-Scientologist creators like Aaron Smith-Levin, I think Nora, a few people said, as Sea Org members, they were actually at Flag at the same time doing their objectives. There was a huge push to get
2009.
No, this was way long time ago. I'm an old lady. late 90s,
Late
90s.
night. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
early on.
Yeah.
Not even late 90s, mid 90s. So I'm 12. I'm like away from my parents. Why? Who knows? Who knows? Probably because I was an adult in a little body and I could handle it.
I mean, you've been on this planet for thousands of
Right.
lifetimes, Liz. You
Right.
should know better. You're supposed to remember it.
Yeah.
You've gone through sessions.
Right. Well, and I'm a past life Scientologist, so
Yeah,
I really should know. I
you
mean,
really
I should be
should
like,
already know everything. Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
they should be able to show me the new renovations in the building and be like, this is where you're at. You're good. But
and just on that note, the insanity is so real on that I thought I actually was a past life Scientologist. I had hallucinations that I did that I could remember. And I mean, as a believer in Jesus, I believe in the spiritual gifts. And I also believe in demonic gifts as well. Like they're not gifts, but in the spiritual realm, there is certain things you can pick up, and there's monitoring spirits without getting too much into that. But there's certain, how psychics and visions and all this stuff, there is a witchcraft element, because I clearly have memories. I had memories of what St. Hill used to look like. And I could even say there was an office here, there was this. And I was talking to my auditor in St. Hill who had been alive during that time. He's in his late 70s, and said, yeah, that's how it used to look. I still, to this day, I'm like, those were implanted witchcraft spell casting with the repetitive techniques. There's just no explanation in the logical world. How could, unless he was just lying and saying that just to make me feel, but he's also victimized. See, everybody who's auditing you, just like Liz said, that was so wise what you said, is you said, not only were you, okay, I'm going to train to be an auditor, to use these techniques, to speak, to control speech, to be able to have knowledge, control, responsibility, make that person sit down on that chair, get up, deliver the thing, cut their communication, make them answer a question. I learned all these things too. Every Scientologist is supposed to learn these things. And it's hours and hours every day for a 12-year-old, unbelievable. And then, but you're not only just controlling the other person, but you're also receiving that back.
Right.
It's called your twin. That's why your partner, you're twinned up on this.
Right.
So true. You think you're empowered, but you're actually now manipulated. Because when you say, okay, sit down in that chair, and you tell somebody to do that and they do it, it's like, see, I'm in control, but they're telling you to do that. And you're seeing, okay, if I tell someone, then I have to do it too. You're now playing by their rules.
Right.
It is the sickest, most twisted thing. And this is why I talk about that it's witchcraft control, and they call it a science, because this repetitive, like you said, controlling bodies, they call it control, indoctrination.
8C, controlling bodies. Yes.
Literally, it's they played in our faces. They freaking played right in our face. And we said, I remember being like, indoctrination. I don't like that term. Okay, indoc, but but I was like, why do we have crosses? Oh, well, that's just how it, and they always weave and deceive and tell you some blah, blah, blah patter to explain it away. But please, what are your material state? Get back to the exercise, right? They don't let you think too much. So sorry for that tangent, but I just,
it's good. Yeah, it's important. Really important. And I think the younger you are and you're presented with these experiences, the more dangerous it becomes, in my opinion.
Those are your formative years at 12.
They are. They really, really are. They really are. So I ended up going back to Delphi, but then I left again because it didn't fix me. Surprise! I was and
you still a bad girl?
Well, my brother had kind of he was good. So he conformed. So I had a lot of extra chances because I was his little sister, Phil's little sister. And I am very smart, but I am rebellious. I don't know why. I just am. So when it comes to fight or flight, like I will fight. And I don't love that about myself, that's still the way I am. But it did help me a lot during those times. So finally somebody asked me, it was like, I had actually stopped seeing the student ethics officer at Delphi, and I had moved to the staff ethics officer, a higher trained ethics officer, so they could deal with me. And of course, I was doing hard labor. I was writing my OWs. I was getting meter checked at school at, all the way from 8 until 12. I had my first kiss, trouble. And what is the response? Writing up all of my crimes, which of course included this crush I had on this boy. And
how could you, Liz? How could you have a crush on a boy?
I know. And how dare I, have my first kiss with this boy, like under the tree. And I told somebody, and I told my friend Rachel, and she wrote a KR on me. And of
It's a
course,
knowledge report,
yes.
by the way. It's a snitch culture in Scientology. You better snitch or you'll get snitched on.
Yeah. For the record, I didn't snitch on all her business, just so you guys know.
She was a hoe. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so I can still write a KR on you, Rachel. No.
Yeah, Rachel?
Yeah, Rachel. No, she's actually out now. And
oh, praise God. I'm so glad. We love you, Rachel. Just kidding.
Yeah. You know what else I got to see once? Another friend of mine who went to Delphi, she has actually her PC folders, which is wild.
How
and she sent me a screenshot once where we were 9.
Folder?
Yeah, she does, because her mom was her ethics officer and she basically was house sitting and took them.
I'm so proud of her. I would love to have my ethics, my whole folder.
I was thinking about that at some point where it's like, shouldn't I be able to subpoena them for my folders, especially when I was a child, or have or have a psychologist, or have, like, there's got to be a way where it's like, I give consent for my folders, but they'll just lose them.
They'll lose them. Exactly. They'll say, we don't keep records that far back. That's what they'll do. Right. They'll lie.
Right.
I mean, but it's, you'd have to have somebody on the inside that's actually come out of Scientology, but is secret. I have a $15,000 e-meter still at Tampa.org. Oh. I'm like, if I can find somebody who could sneak it out and just be like, because it has my name on it. They probably did something with it now because I'm for sure SP, but I would love to have that just to show people how it works, not because I want to use it, but I'm just like, oh yeah, I got rid of all my Scientology books. Right. And I kind of regret that because I'm like, I could show you guys now, look at this, but it's whatever, right? It's just, it's woulda, coulda, shoulda, but the folders have a lot of intense, I mean, it's just going to be BS. It's going to be from Scientology's where you were at and what should be your next step. But they write every single thing.
But they have my writings too. My like, and that's what I want to see. Like, where was my head at as a little kid?
Your
curious,
success stories, your coerced success stories.
Yep. And my OWs. I mean, I would love to show that to the world. I was so ashamed when I was little writing those, like I stole a piece of gum. I took 50 cents from an ashtray, and I'm not proud of those things now, but like, I would be more than happy to publish those and say, hey, I'm like 9 years old writing these things down and they're kept forever. That's insane. In fact,
you can say that though. You can, because it's true. Your testimony, your confession here, your testimony in that is true. Like this is what we're making kids do. And I thought it was healthy at the time too. Even though when I did overcoming ups and downs in life was my first course. And then I did personal integrity. Yeah. Personal values and integrity. That's the course where you write down your overts and withholds, the beginner course. And then it goes way more intense to get you indoctrinated and set up. I cried at Celebrity Center in the course room. I mean, I was 23. It was brand new in Scientology. It wasn't, an artist, celebrity, or anything like that. It was just first time, second course. And I said, do I have to write everything down? And the course supervisors, they're trained to not, they're your supervisors. You're not taught. It's a self-study course. And she's like, yes. Super cold older lady who stat pushed like a mofo, got you to do all these courses and stuff. And I remember I cried. It felt so wrong. Right. And I felt so violated because I'm like, who's going to read this? Right. And they're like, just write it down.
Everybody.
I mean, it's so bizarre. And I can't imagine if I was a child. Right. And that's what you feel. You feel violated.
Yes. And as a child, some of the, again, age appropriate, natural things that you go through, puberty, body stuff, even just naturally like your body changing. I had actually mentioned this to somebody earlier when I was there, when I was 12. I was very flat chested and I wanted boobs. I just really wanted them. And, that was a button, as they call, like something that I had attention on. And so when I did those at Flag, those training drills, part of it was to, quote, flatten me on my button, which means getting teased in a controlled setting where I had to sit, this, Joy, but you have to sit with your feet flat on the ground, very still with your hands down, good posture, and you can't flinch, you can't suck your breath in, you can't respond. And so I had a parade of individuals starting from a young friend twin, eventually to grown men sitting 3 feet away from me at 12 years old, talking about my breasts. And because I had been vulnerable to say that this was something, actually, I don't know how vulnerable I was. I wrote in pencil, "I want boobs," on my door.
You were a kid. That's vulnerable.
I
You
know.
were a child.
On my like bunk bed, and somebody found it, and that was part of why I was in trouble. And so this is what I'm talking about, these age appropriate. Like if my kid wrote something on the wall or on his bed, I'd be like, "Hey, we don't write on walls. Like, sounds like you have some feelings. Like, would you like a journal? Here's a spray bottle. Please wipe that off the wall, and like, let's move on with our lives. It's not that big of a deal, you know?"
Yeah.
But it is a big deal when you're in, when it's in Scientology, and if it's something that the child feels badly about or has attention on, that's in an effort to, quote, help them, they're going to like blow that wide open. And again, age appropriate, talking about a 12, 13, 14-year-old girl, it's body, it's boys, it's
oh my gosh,
all those things.
You have zero privacy as a child in Scientology, because if your thoughts now, and they do this really, really interesting manipulation, because when I was a little girl, I used to pray to Jesus and say, "God, please forgive me for my what did I say? Lord, please forgive me for my sins and bad thoughts."
Okay.
And how innocent, how sweet, like bad thoughts, right? But I would say that, and I would pray. When I got into Scientology, I thought it was healing that thoughts are not crimes. Thoughts don't count. You have to act on them. So this is in Scientology. They tell you this policy, right? That, wow, so if I think something, it's not bad. Now, the Bible says if you think murder in your heart, it's like you committed murder. And that's not for condemnation. That's to show that we're all fallen short of the glory of God. We're all sinners. Nobody can be saved by yourself. It's just like we make bad gods. And that's actually relieving in Christianity. I'm like, oh, I don't have to be the God. In Scientology, it's the opposite. They say if you think something, it doesn't count. But yet, on a sec check, did you think any thoughts about David Miscavige?
Yes.
Have you thought any thoughts? I forgot even the word, but is any inappropriate thoughts or something against any executives in Scientology?
Yeah.
Have you thought any? I used to check these questions as an auditor and receive these questions about L. Ron Hubbard. So they tell you the thoughts, just like they tell you Christianity, you can be a Christian Scientologist, but when it comes down to it, you cannot. And the thoughts actually do count as crimes, because behind that thought is an action, and they're not going to quit. If you read on that, if that is, let's find it. Well, I didn't think, I thought, okay, Dave Miscavige's, hair looks weird about, I thought that. Okay, great. So what did you do? Have you done something David Miscavige wouldn't want to know about? Have you done? Now it's like there is a crime behind the thought. So it's a twisted way to say that thoughts are crimes.
Right.
And that the only way to get free is not to ask for forgiveness, is is to get pounded and told and hounded to give up the further crime until we find something that you are so ashamed of. You didn't tell us. And that, by the way, cost hours of time and thousands of dollars. And now you got to go back up and we do it again and we recheck those questions. So it's indoctrination. It's not for your good. It's not for anyone's good.
No, it's not.
So I just had to say that thought crime is very real in Scientology. But if you ask a current Scientologist, no, I can think what I want.
Right. Well, and I think sometimes the thought plays into the bigger loop. So imagine you go and you confess all these crimes. One of the things they'll ask is like, how did you justify this? How did you, make up an excuse to make it okay? Because they have this idea that like, if you do get sick or hurt or something, it comes back to you having first done something, and then you must have justified it. And so eventually you're going to drill down and say at the end of the day, you're like, well, I didn't think it was that big of a deal. They had 900 pieces of gum and I took one and I figured I'd tell them on Tuesday and it was going to be fine. Well, if that's something that is directly against a Scientology belief, they can even put you down into something called the false purpose rundown, where is like more indoctrination, more interrogation.
And it's a whole track, which means now you have to not just say what crimes you've committed in this lifetime, what actions you did. You have to go back to your previous lifetimes. I did 14 intensives of FPRD.
Yeah. Well, in my experience, almost everything goes back because to an earlier lifetime. in order to end it, because the question is
Mm.
always, is there an earlier similar? So in Scientology, there's this idea that you have trauma, but if you can find that first thing that happened to you and you can resolve that trauma, all the other trauma that came after it will just like, imagine like a lock or a chain going poof, 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 poof. That's how it's supposed to be. I think I saw that
Exactly.
graphic somewhere.
That's right.
Um,
And then there's also in the false purpose rundown, you have to then find the purpose behind what you did, which is
Right.
false, right? So you find the overt, I stole
Right.
the piece of gum. Okay, great. Well, I was on the planet and 1,000 years ago, and I stole somebody's baby. It's like,
Right.
I was in a robot
Exactly.
body and I stole a baby. It's always like you're like, oh, that's the
Crazy
root
thing.
of it. Great. So then
Right.
how did it go? Then you have to find what was the purpose behind your false purpose was to kill family, right? It has to
Right,
be
it had
something
to
like that.
Yeah, it
Like
had to be this thing that
this
was an
evil purpose.
evil purpose.
You had
Yeah.
this evil purpose
Yes.
because the reason you stole that gum at 12 years old or 8 years old is
Right.
because you actually had this evil purpose to destroy
Right.
families. And
Right.
it's not like it's just, to take gum. That's not evil enough. It has to be. And
Right.
your auditor would walk you through. It's a
Right.
very highly trained process of what
Right.
is your evil purpose.
Right.
You did false purpose rundown as a child?
I didn't do the whole false purpose rundown, but I had several life repairs that had that type of pulling and questioning. Yeah, but I didn't have to do the
Unbelievable.
whole thing.
Unbelievable,
Yeah.
Liz. I am
Yeah.
shocked because how as an adult to wrap your head around that, always have to be like, can I read that again? They have like this little thing to show you, to teach you how we're going to do this process. It'd always be such a head trip as an adult. I cannot imagine as a child, like you're just making stuff up at some point.
Well, you have
I
to,
mean,
because
it all
earlier
is.
similar, you're 5, you're 6, you're like, well, I was 3. Okay, tell me an earlier similar. Well, I don't know where to go from there other than to completely, yeah. And then at that point, and I was also kind of labeled eventually problematic because there's certain types of pre-clears, and one of the worst kinds is a dub-in, which means that,
Oh gosh, a dub-in case.
yeah, so that's me. So like I essentially like create memories.
You
and
made
like
things up.
made things up. Yeah.
It's actually a serious thing. If you say somebody's a dub-in, they're
Right.
dubbing it in, they're making it up.
Right. But
And
maybe
that's-
not even on purpose.
Everybody's making it up though. I'm going to
They
be
are.
honest. I'm going to pull the strings. Any
Yes.
Scientologists watching, you are also making this up.
You
Just
have
because
to
the
get
needle
out of there.
floats and somebody tells you, wow, it doesn't mean you found something that's an actual crime. I learned how to control the meter, even though in
Yes.
Scientology they tell you cannot control the meter. L. Ron Hubbard says it's impossible. But guess what? I drilled for hours in St. Hill helping other auditors with floating needle.
Right.
If you can't control the meter, then how can I make my needle float so that another auditor can see a floating needle in an exercise, in a training exercise?
Yeah.
Then why couldn't I also replicate that in session? And I did. I'd look at a thing and I'd be like, I'm so tired. I want to get out of this session.
Right.
I'm tired of being indoctrinated. So I'm just going to look at something. I'm going to remember something nice. I'm going to make my needle float really right now so I can get out of this session. I remember doing that. I remember manipulating the manipulators because I was just like, I just want to get through this so I can get to the good parts. Yeah. But you still think you're going to get to the good parts, the OT levels, clear, all of that. I want to ask you, Liz, did you believe in Scientology as a kid? Did you think, I want this? Was there a part of you that was like, I want to be clear, I want to be OT, like the religious, spiritual part of it? Was there any of that?
Yes and no. I think that I was like a roller coaster case, as they call it, because there were definitely times in my life where I was, a breakup or something happened and I would go back to Scientology and I would think, if I just write up all my crimes, I must have done something, because that is the responsibility as a Scientologist, truly in your most intention state, you are responsible for both sides of the chessboard. And so it must have been my fault. And some of that sort of false purpose rundown stuff, like the evil purpose is that I wanted attention, that I wanted something that I did not deserve or something that was not my right to have, like parents and unconditional love and those kinds of things.
It's so sad.
Yeah. But I
That's
don't know if you
so
know this about me, but I ended up graduating at 14. Again, it was like a GED, but I got my diploma. But in the state of Oregon, you have to be enrolled in school. So I went to community college and I started taking, I got my associates at 19 in early childhood education. And then it took me about a long time more, but then I went on to get my bachelor's in child and family studies. And so I was working with children, preschoolers. I was the lead preschool teacher for like 12 years at a school in Portland. And guess what? Teaching preschool is controlling people. I mean, really, you are like convincing children to do things they don't want to do. It's nap time. Do you want your shoes on? Do you want your shoes off? However, it's very interesting to have that approach, like the early childhood education field. The approach, the end result is to empower the child. The end result is for the child to feel safe, the child to feel holistically worthy, the child to have process over product experiences so that they get the skills they need. They still get what they have to have: food, shelter, clothing, whatever, even discipline. But it is designed in a way to support the child's development. And so I learned things that I'd never heard of before, like age appropriate expectations. Like that's a 101 course concept. And to me, it was foreign. Like, what are you talking about? It says, oh, well, you wouldn't expect a 2-year-old to do algebra and then beat them because they couldn't do it, would you? No. Well, then why would you expect an 8-year-old to be able to feed, clothe, food, all those things?
Woo! It's so true, Liz. That's the whole point. It's psychological manipulation. You don't expect a child to know algebra, to know philosophy, high intense ideals, to know religious theology. Why would you expect a child to be able to then comprehend all these things that even for adults it's hard to comprehend? Like these high level things. Those are not age appropriate, like you said.
Right.
And then Scientology, that's what you do with kids. You're expecting them to understand this. You're expecting them to operate as fully franchised adults because you're an adult in a small body. That's the belief. That's the tenet. So you can technically, and obviously it crosses over to SA, abuse, to children. It's awful. And it does happen in Scientology, but it's not as common. They push it away. I wouldn't say it's not as common. It's more of like they do keep that hidden. It does happen. That's valid. But for the most people, it's not like that's going on all the time, because otherwise Scientologists would say no. But the surface level is still abuse. It's still manipulation. It's coercion, because you have a child that's being told to repeat things and memorize all these blocks of things. As an adult, I would cry and I'd be hungry and I'd be tired, and you're supposed to get 8 hours of sleep, and they'd say, okay, great, you're fine, you're well slept, you read on you're fine on the meter, you metabbed, all right, this is the session. And they just go into these questions that hound you. But I thought for the greater good, and also for my greater good. I thought I'm going to be a better person so I can have a career, so I can have a better marriage, so I had all these adult ideas. As a child, what? So you can just kiss the boy you like? Like, I mean, kids are so simple. They just want love. Why would you think a kid's going to need to go in session and do it? But L. Ron Hubbard puts all of these ideas in a kid's head, in a parent's head, that's supposedly from the child's perspective. What a dirty old man. And then having adults manipulate kids and then look down on you. I mean, the shame, the absolute blame, the absolute feeling like you're not good enough. As a kid, kids are already packaged to believe that, because they're babies, they're children, they're innocent. And you have a religion, a cult, a coercive group that's built on, it's your responsibility, it's your fault. If you get sick, it's your fault. You just want attention. What are your crimes? What have you done wrong? What?
I know, it's crazy. Because if you think about how do we get to be the functional adults that we are now? How do we know how to read and write? How do we know how to bathe? How do we know how to grocery shop? It's trial and error. You make mistakes along the way. Show me one human that doesn't make mistakes. That seems to be our lot, that we make mistakes. Sometimes we figure it out. Sometimes we make the same mistake. And then sometimes we figure it out. Sometimes we don't. But children, when you're in Scientology, it's all about the product. And I mean that so literally. Like, if I'm a little kid and I've got chores, the product is a clean kitchen. The product is a course done. I learned that process over product is so appropriate for so many things for children and adults. Sometimes just doing something is the value, right? And sometimes making the mistake and failing is the value.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
there's so much shame that comes with that sometimes, depending on your experience. But I had a lot of shame about that because growing up, it's like product, perfection.
Results. What have you done? Let's show it. It's pushed to exhaustion.
Yes, exactly. And it's exhausting because guess what, everybody? Children develop on their own time. And some children are way ahead in certain areas, you know, physically, and maybe socially they're behind, or maybe socially they're great, and physically there's all these areas of development. And I didn't know any of that. I knew nothing. All I knew is that my brother didn't make it out alive. He felt the need to unalive himself. I knew several other people who had either attempted to unalive themselves. I knew several people who had run away from home, and I didn't really understand the degree to their homelessness or houselessness or what they were going through, but I knew they didn't have a stable home. And I thought, gosh, my own family is the poster child for this, and we're falling apart over here. What is happening? What is not working? What is this supposed to be? And that's what kind of led me into wanting to learn about, because growing up in Scientology, I never took a psychology class. I never took a sociology class, any of those things. And so finally learning some of those basics, and I don't think those sciences are perfect either, but the more different ways we have to think about situations, I think the better it can be. Anyway, so it really did change my perspective. And then when I used that new lens to look back at Scientology, I was like, oh, wow. This stuff is bad for children to be a part of. And so that's kind of where I come from. We were joking earlier. I was like, I don't have a grand plan, which I don't. And I'm actually not on this huge crusade necessarily to take Scientology down. That's not, I mean, I like that idea, but that's not really like what I wake up in the morning and think about. I personally feel like I have this really specific life and this specific, what does Liam Neeson say? I have a particular set of skills. And I think that I just want other parents at this point to know. I think that it comes down to these decisions where parents have to give consent. And if they don't give it, then that is like, there's a wall there, there's protection there.
Yeah.
So
you're incredibly brave, Liz, and beautiful and well-spoken. And obviously you've gone through a lot of healing. There's more healing to be done. There is no end product, right? Like you said. And
right.
Everything you've said has been so eye-opening, not just for me, but for the audience, because I see all these amazing comments. I do want to show your beautiful art, this video you sent me. Is this no, this isn't your art, right?
This is. Okay, I want to explain this. It's so, just watch this for a second. You probably have to put it on mute so you don't get copyright. And it's just me walking around it for a second.
Okay, we're going to put the volume off and we're going to play this video. Literally not sure anymore if I'm insane or if this is art. Ooh.
Okay, I am making, I know this seems a little crazy.
Oh my gosh, this is the first time I've seen this. This is so dope.
Okay, that was probably, I don't know if it's loading or, I know.
Oh, you can't see it?
Well, I mean, no, it just glitched for a second. It's fine.
Okay, it's glowing. I'm watching the whole, oh my god.
Okay, that's probably the beginning. Okay, that's not, I meant to go down and film you a special video. I'll do it later. But basically, I have taken these boards. I have over 200 square feet now, and it is vintage pictures, vintage documents. I start back in the war history, like his L. Ron Hubbard's war basics. And then I go through the occult. And now you've talked a ton about Scientology's witchcraft. In doing this project, I have ended up probably into what most people consider the conspiratorial realm, which is where I'm most comfortable anyway. However,
yes, girl.
The CIA and the FBI have a long-standing relationship with Scientology. You can actually go on the FBI's and the CIA, I believe, but definitely the FBI's homepage, and you can search for the Freedom of Information Act and get a huge cache of files from the 50s on, they know what's going on with Scientology. Then I start learning about Charles Manson having done Scientology, about Jolly West being in the same, really long story. I'm trying to make this short, but I'm getting off track. The CIA in their MK Ultra programs were doing many different research tactics. We know that L. Ron Hubbard was aware of this because before anything became public, L. Ron Hubbard was talking about psychiatrists doing drug and programs on unsuspecting people. So because of his connections, he knew something about this. The people he hung out with.
He talks about it too. As an auditor, you're trained. I've read so much as a class 5 auditor, which is the highest now public you can get. You learn about this. He says it very plainly that, black Dianetics, and he glosses over a lot as if they were trying to get it from him, but he mentions it so often that this isn't just a conspiracy theory. This is true.
Yes. And when you go through, if you're like a new person or you're doing some of these eligibility checks, you are asked, are you a member of the government? Are you I forget the exact wording, but because Scientology and the government have a long history of infiltrating each other, right? But now that we're learning so much about the Diddy trial, the Epstein things, and I don't know if you know this, but Epstein's lady, Ghislaine Maxwell, her father, Robert Maxwell, not only did Scientology, but was also a member of the Mossad. And you guys can look him up. There's a whole other rabbit hole. But my point in bringing this up is that these blackmail, data gathering, coercive ideas, the science of coercion, it would behoove the CIA to let some of these things happen, right? Like Epstein was arrested. Let him back out. They know what's going on. Why? Because he offers something valuable. Diddy, everybody knew why. We're talking about blackmail here, guys. Blackmail runs the world. You blackmail a politician, you blackmail somebody, you are in charge of them. That's
preach it.
Yeah. And so think about in Scientology now. I literally imagine L. Ron Hubbard just being like, oh yeah, watch me do it without LSD. And poof, you got the e-meter. And it is regardless of whether the CIA is involved or not, it is a CIA-esque data gathering. Like we talked about those PC folders that have, or ethics folders that have everything written down. Yeah. What an 8-year-old writes, not that exciting. But the president of, what'd you say, Power and Gas, or ABC Mouse, or some of these big, rich, important people, Grant Cardone.
Yep.
They have blackmail on these people. And if you ask other ex-Scientologists who were there at Flag, it's all recorded. Video, audio.
Oh, everything is recorded on video, audio, and written. Everything.
And so
every session.
Right. And I think that's so important for people to know and to put together. And for me, this art project, what my vision and hope and goal is that it's something that you can walk into. Now, I don't have Red String up, but I'm calling it the Red String Project because I plan on doing some sort of performance aspect, connecting all the dots.
Yes.
And then the end of it, I haven't done it yet, but I'm kind of getting to that point. Like, you're wrapped up. You're stuck in that string. And the amount, it represents like all of the cognitive labor that somebody has to do when they leave a high control group. None of this stuff on these boards did I know about. None of, so for me, it's really cool. I want to be able to show it. I'm going to try and do an event here. But my hope and goal, you're just a fellow artist, and I just thought you'd appreciate this. I don't have a ton of people to talk to about this. I want people to have that visual, right? Like to be able to walk in and see it. Because you can read these big, heavy books, you could do all this stuff, but there's something about visual for me to be like, whoa, the history to the MK Ultra, to the intelligence agencies, to the beginning of Dianetics and the Black Dianetics. And
yes.
I want to be able to present that. I don't have a lot of experience presenting it or being really like that type of artist. So it's all new to me, but that's where I hope.
You don't
She
even
totally
need
gets
experience, just do it. I love
Yeah,
this so much.
exactly.
I love it so much.
Thank you. I thought you might appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. Honestly, it's so dope. It's so cool as an artist. I love it, and I love your expression here, and I love that you go into it. Look, freeze frame on this Cult Awareness Network, the Hitler Youth, MK Ultra. I mean, hello, you tie it all into this, and the coercion, the control. It doesn't just come out of nowhere. You're absolutely right. L. Ron Hubbard was a genius, an evil genius, like many dictators. He was a dictator, and he found a way to absolutely dictate people's lives and use everything that was before in history. And the fact Charles Manson, and this is known, he apparently said it was too weird for him, right? That's what he said?
He did say that after he did, I guess it was like over 200 hours of
like,
auditing.
you know, you're the bad guy. If one of the most infamous serial offers, you know, we're trying not to get demonetized and deleted from YouTube, but listen, guys, look at the hypnotism. Yeah, and L. Ron Hubbard talks about how he's like, hypnotism doesn't work, mysticism doesn't work, but after detailing how he used it to find out it doesn't work. So these are the lines as a sign, and this isn't taken out. David Miscavige didn't even take this part out. I'm like, oh, you guys left this in, because and I remember I was like, oh, wow. He had to use it on people to discover it didn't work. No, what you did, L. Ron Hubbard, is you used it on people, you discovered it did. And like you said, let's figure out a way to use this and do it without the drug or change the nomenclature, the words for it. So let's say it's repetitive technique instead of hypnotism.
Right.
Let's call it, mental engineering, mental health. Instead of coercion, instead of brainwashing, right? These are the same techniques that I talk about. This is dark CIA black techniques. And I talk a lot about the witchcraft angle because nobody talks about this in the ex-Scientology community that I found. And I'm like, guys, this is the biggest part of it. Because we're not just talking about, I mean, there's Christian cults, there's all kinds of cults and they're just as evil. This is evil. But that's kind of obvious to somebody who's like an atheist or an agnostic or non-religious. Like, I'm not going to believe. But this, you can get everybody. Because it's like, we don't tell you what God to believe. It's a philosophical. Yes, it's spiritual. So now you're going, oh, it's science. So now you're getting a broader amount of people who can claim to be, and they want intelligent people.
Yes.
They want people to think for themselves the way they want you to think for ourselves. You're doing it all on your own. Say whatever you want, just as long as we can look at it and just kind of make some adjustments here, right? Look at this.
And instead of the LSD or the truth serum, you have an e-meter. And it doesn't matter if the e-meter works because the person and the people doing it believe it works.
That's it. I love this. Look, you got the clear bracelet up there. Is that your actual
that's a real clear bracelet. So you had mentioned earlier about how you didn't have any Scientology books. I actually also didn't, but I've become a little bit of a collector of vintage documents. Like there's several on this board. That Certainty one, that little green one next to the text.
That's really vintage.
That's really vintage.
This is
I had the original brainwashing manual. I don't know if you know the history behind that. It's kind of controversial.
We're gonna have you come back on and talk just about this. Would you do that?
Yeah.
And show and more of your art, and you can still film that video because this is important. This is so unique. That's why I love everybody can be an activist. Everyone can use their voice to speak up. Everybody in the chat, if you've had similar experiences or know that, please also write it down. Even if you just write it down, don't show anybody, write it down for your own, for you, because this is real. It's valid what you went through. And there's a reason why. And look at this gorgeous art, this representation of it. It's so cool because I love this map where you outlined that looks like L. Ron Hubbard in there, that country. Did you mean to do that?
No, that's I don't remember what state that, but it's where it's one of the first churches was there. I probably have it.
That looks like it. Oh, is it New Jersey?
New Jersey. Yeah.
That's New Jersey. Yes. So that to me looks like a weird.
It does. I can see it now. I can see it. Yeah.
And then it's just everything here as a Scientologist, it gives you the creeps, but it's also weirdly comforting because we've seen these images so much. You get brainwashed to see this so much, these pictures. It's like, and it's vintage. I love this. Liz, this is literally, you're doing something nobody else.
Thank you. Yeah. I'd love to be able to show people. It's in, you can tell it's like in my little pump house garage area. But
this is a whole presentation. This is a whole art present. The Seor contract there. You've collected so many good things. And then it is perfect. It's also looks like how you would want to see the strings attached, like you said, the red string, like, you know, when you're figuring out a crime, a criminal, and in the movies they show that.
That's it. The detective board or the M board.
Yes, I love it. It's so good. I honestly, please, we need to film this and make a little mini movie.
Or that's how it felt or has felt at times.
You're
where
putting
I'm like,
together all the pieces.
Yes, I'm like, what happened? What is this? And I think there's, for me, I'm such a visual learner. And of course there's movies and there's shorts, but there's something about the combination of, again, the vintage documents. For some reason, for me, like the fact that there's a real clear bracelet there, I think it adds an authentic energy to the project, like having actual vintage documents as part of it. And then I tried to add as many textures and there's some digital art. I have to be careful about copyrights. I cannot reproduce Scientology's images. So, you know, you got to find different ways but I can.
But even for art, can't you?
Well, I don't think that I can print them. I can reprint them, but I do have tons of old magazines. I buy them on eBay. In fact, you know what I found? I found a guy. It was Kismet, I swear. I found a guy in Portland, so an hour away from me, selling his entire library for $400. I talked him down to $300. I have the red vols. I have like 2 or 3 sets of basics. I've got check sheets. I've got 3 e-meters. They're all broken and old, but for art purposes, amazing.
Perfect. Oh, because also people haven't seen, this is perfect. This is perfect. People haven't seen it. They don't know. And I'm going to be honest. I'm like, okay, we need to get more of the nitty gritty out there. We need to get more of this witchcraft, the MK Ultra, the things that are really dark and sinister. I mean, it's already dark and sinister, but when you've been in Scientology and you've seen and you start to put together these pieces, these conspiracy theories, which great, Osa, call us whatever you want, you know, everybody out there.
Hi, Osa.
Exactly. And somebody made a comment, Osa, yes, the doubts you are feeling are valid, which I love that because I'm always about speaking to people with the truth, but also in love. I'm not like, yeah, down with Tom Cruise. What a weirdo. I see a lot of that in the Scientology community, not this one, because this is all about love and the people in the comments here, but in some of the videos and the shock jocks, and there is a place for that. We need that too, but that's more entertainment. What you're doing is education with art. And when you entertain somebody, they get a few laughs and they go, oh yeah, that's weird. And they walk away. When you educate someone, it stays with them forever. It kind of tinkers around. And that's what I love about your episode, because I failed to mention you're in the Aftermath series. I think the whole episode is about you.
Well, about my family, but yeah.
It's about your family and your journey. Guys, go watch it. Leah Remini's series on A&E. It's now available. I think it's on not Temu. What is it? Tubi. It's on Tubi. It's on Tubi. That's where I watched it because it's hard to find because it's 12 years old, that series now. But watch it. And I'm sure someone's uploaded it on YouTube somewhere. But you can follow Liz Gail. You'll see her story. What you said here is perfect. That was one of the stories that stood out to me the most because of 3 generations and because of what your family, how they cut you off after you came out and how the disconnection, it was focused on that disconnection, which that series talked a lot about, which is so important for people to understand. Now we've had those truths come out. It's time for the deeper, darker stuff to come out. And that's what you're doing with your art. Which I love. And support her Confessions of an Ex-Scientologist Pothead, guys. Buy the book. Support Liz Gail. I'm going to
turn it into a series, Confessions of an Ex-Scientologist. I'm working on Confessions of an Ex-Scientologist Mom. Then I've got Confessions of an Ex-Scientologist Activist and a Cultist, because I think those will be the way to do it. I don't know. But I do like the entertainment factor some. Like my TikTok's kind of sassy and silly.
Oh, yeah. She's on TikTok at Liz Gail, or is it at Liz Gail Gail?
It's probably at Liz Gail Gale. If you just Google though, Liz Gail Scientology,
guys,
my stuff will come up. Of course, maybe some negative stuff will come about me too, but don't look at that.
But honestly, I say read it, because don't read it, but I'm saying, like, if for me, if anything
Right.
that comes out, go ahead and read it.
Oh,
Because if
yeah.
that's what you're going to believe, because that's what Scientology says, like, don't
Right.
look at the bad stuff. But I'm like, but what if they told us, look at the bad stuff and then come back and make your own? You would never, if you look at the bad stuff on Liz, I don't know what it is out there. And then you watch this, if you actually gave equal time, you'd be like, Liz is awesome. Because there's nothing, they say the same tired stories when they try to fair game people, right? It's like, I think the women are all crazy, mental, abandoned children. Like, it's so 1960s, right? It's like, so, they're terrible women. They didn't vacuum, And then it's like the men are all abusive and hurt it's like, so they got enough fight in a bar. It's like because I've read all those websites, because I was like, these are going to come against me. I know that they haven't yet, probably will. It's all malarkey. It's all lies. I'm not saying go look at the bad propaganda against
It's fine.
Liz.
I mean, as far as mine go, I don't care.
I don't even know what is out there, because your stuff pops up when I Google you.
I put a lot of content out there.
Yeah.
I mean, just a few little screenshots of times when I wasn't my best online or whatever, and that happens.
Okay, well,
I have always tried.
You're allowed to be a human being.
And I've tried to be authentic, and like I've cried on here before, and I've done this and that, and I don't have some big like agenda necessarily, or like some big plan that I'm working off. I'm genuinely trying to make use of myself. I do feel a little bit like Liam Neeson, where I'm just like, I have a particular set of skills, a particular experience.
You got it, and you're using it. That's the beautiful thing. And I am so honored that you came on the show, that we've been friends. We've become, you're always on my lives.
I know.
The chat blows up. So speaking of the chat, we've got some incredible comments. I'm going to read some of these. So I'm going to put this up on the stage. You guys have been so patient. I mean, her story is just wonderful. The way you just flow and tell it is wonderful, Liz. It really is. And it's your experience. So, I'm
sorry.
This is hilarious. Sorry, Deanna. It's talks like this that key in everything I forgot. I think this is I hope you're not just, I hope it's kind of joking and humorous, because the chat was blowing up about the terms we were using. And I think it's actually, it's good to get this visceral response.
I know this person, they're being funny.
They're being snarky,
probably serious. So I acknowledge that you have been through a lot, and I'm sorry that this did probably trigger some of that.
Keying is a word for trigger. That's it doesn't matter too. Such a great conversation. I love listening to Liz. She's so brave and has been through so much. That's Be Gutty Never In. Love it. Love it. Thanks. And Deanna says, just thinking about holding the cans triggers me. Ugh, throw up.
Deanna actually knew my grandmother.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, and when she was younger, and
She was in the Sea Org at 68. I can't imagine the hell that you kids endured. Hugs your way. Deanna knew your grandma.
Yeah, Deanna's the real deal.
Deanna, we love you. Thank you for being on the show. D Pistol says, on the class, this is the 6th St. Hill special brief. I wanted to do the St. Hill special briefing course. It wasn't available still for public. And it's still not available, but that's to become a class 6 auditor. And it takes a minimum of a year, like studying 6 hours a day for a year. Like people are on
69. I have found old auditor, like they'll put the graduates. My grandparents in 69 graduated from the St. Hill briefing course. So they went to England, and I believe I don't even know if my mom was with them or not. I thought she was, because she said she's been to England and she was young and was at some boarding school there.
Wow.
But I didn't know till after we disconnected. I don't have a way to ask her,
Yeah. And we're praying that your family gets out.
Thank you. Honestly, if that happens, that's great. But I can't imagine the pain that my mom would have to undergo to go through that process. And she's like 70 now. That I honestly, in my late 20s, I really wanted her, I wanted her to know. I wanted her to know the truth. I wanted her to understand. And now I guess you could say I put it in God's hands, because it's not up to me, but I know how hard it was for me. And I was in my late 20s, early 30s. I had enough years ahead of me to feel confident that I could overcome my past and go on to live a good life.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've never been, I mean, I should say I've never been 70 according to Scientologists. I've been 70, but I don't know what it's like to be 70 right now.
Yeah,
And I
we
can't
don't.
imagine looking forward that you want to deconstruct your entire existence
Yeah.
and lose your husband and all your community. So
Yeah, I love that you say you put it in God's hands, and it's basically you've forgiven her, is what I see. It's like that forgiveness. It's like you've let go, let
trying.
God, because at the end of the day, we can't control everything. We can't control how people respond or react. There's will, there's your self-determined. I hate to use self-determinism, but it's like
Right.
there's your
Sure.
own will,
Yeah.
right? And your own choice. But I do believe that nobody is without like saving. And for me, I always have that hope and that prayer. I'm going to be praying for her, because if I can get out, if you can get out, other people can get out. There's no, it becomes to where a point where the suffering becomes so great and it stops making sense.
Mhm.
And you start going, this isn't working. And I think every Scientologist who's left has that moment of realization. And I just pray that your mom has that. And for everybody who's still in, everybody's parents, everyone's loved ones, it's quite a painful thing. It's like, it's like having a ghost of a family. They're gone, but they're still alive. I can't imagine. Like, I lost my parents, but they died. To know if they were disconnected from me and still alive. Whew. So that takes a lot of bravery to also to have that healing in yourself, where you're like, whatever happens, happens. So that's a healing point of view too.
Well, and I feel like I probably cling to it, but I have the luxury of being able to know that I never put my children through Scientology. I never did that. I protected my oldest, and then by my second one, I was out, and nobody would come near him,
How beautiful is that? And also, all the things you've gone through, your kids will never have to go through that.
They'll never have to go through that.
They see it. They're smart. They'll never get hoodwinked or deceived by a high coercion group, because the education, the things that you've said, they pick up on that. They see that. They feel that. So they're already 10,000 times smarter without that trauma. And that's the beautiful thing of being a parent, is you get to protect your kids from the things you went through. They're going to make their own mistakes. It's the world, but they're never going to go through what, and then you cannot be deceived by a group like this again. That's the beautiful thing. We can't.
Well, I like to think I can't, but I've definitely seen enough people cult hop that I feel like I never think I can't. I feel like I'm still, I don't know how to explain it. And my son, even, you're like, oh, he'll never get involved with a control group. He joined a fraternity.
Well, yeah.
This is a little culty. You realize it's a little culty, right?
I mean, clubs and sports and things and politics. There is this element, because I think, I know as humans, we're meant to be in groups, right?
Yes.
We want groups. We seek groups. So there's, to me, and there is nuance here, and it's we can disagree on these things too. I think it is natural for us to want to seek a group, to seek a fellowship. That's normal. It's not that cults own that. Cults prey on that, right? It's natural to want to be a part of a group. It's not like, now that you've left, because I've seen comments, now that you've left Scientology, you don't have to be in a group. Groups are, I'm like, no. Scientology hijacked the group. Groups, they don't own that. Yeah. They hijacked help and healing. They hijacked confessing your sins, because being able to confess, it's just like, hey, I hurt you, to say I'm sorry. It's not, they hijacked it. This natural, hey, I'm sorry. Like, as a kid, I'm sorry I took the candy, right? Yeah, that is bad. We know right from wrong. And there's those things we don't, perpetuate, but they hijacked that to turn it into a multi-level scam, where they can now make millions off of people's fears, people's sense of wanting to be right, wanting to help. So they monetized and hijacked it. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist in a human to want to say I'm sorry, to want to be in a fellowship in a group. There's nothing wrong with those natural wants, to want to be liked and loved, to want to volunteer and join together. It's just, you've got to be careful, because for me, the Bible says you shall know them by their fruits. So what are their fruits? What fruit is it bearing? What are their actions? And in Scientology, there was a lot of red flags that I chose to ignore, because I truly wanted to be loved and liked as well. But you look at Scientology's fruits, all of this abuse, all of this scandal can't be good. you know,
No.
if you just look at the, logically, but
Right.
I think we are as human beings programmed to want love and want to join and help others. And that's
Mhm.
good. That's why I
Yeah.
love what you're doing too. And you're expressing those feelings in your art and in your TikToks with humor and realism. And so, I'm a perpetual optimist too. I think it's a good thing,
Right.
to do that, to want to form a group. That's why I love the communities. And that's why when people leave Scientology, they want to find a community. And I love that there is this community out here that says, you were victimized. It's okay.
Mhm.
You're out now. We love you. And that's
Mhm.
how, for me, I was embraced by this. I'm
Yeah.
incredibly grateful to you and those of you who started this,
Mhm. Well,
for
yeah, and it's kind of like a pass it on type thing. I mean, the first people I ever contacted, Tori Magoo was the first person I ever emailed.
oh, wow.
And if she had somehow been weird or shady or cagey or strange, who knows how long, that would have taken, or if I felt she was going to turn me in or something. But no, it doesn't matter. It was just, here's my phone number. It doesn't matter who you're going to,
Yeah.
it's I don't know. It's almost like we understand something about each other, especially people who are just getting out. It's like you understand something, not that you know their whole experience, but enough to
Mhm.
know that not everybody else understands. And sometimes if you can just say to somebody like, "Hey, I
I
see
get
you.
it.
I get
Yeah.
it." Sometimes
Yes.
that can be so relieving and helpful to that person. It doesn't mean you want to, they're going to like tell the same story a million times and they're going to want to live in that moment forever or anything, but to be there for somebody to help them carry that load specifically, that I don't know. It's not, I'm not gonna say I feel obligated to do it because I don't, but when I feel like I have something I could offer, I would like to offer. And if it is accepted, I think that's a beautiful thing because I've been in that
It
other
is.
situation.
Absolutely. So well said. You have your particular set of skills.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So badass. Liz Gale. We're talking to Liz Gale. We have over 300 people watching this live.
Oh, wow. Hi,
That's awesome.
everybody.
Yeah. So, in many lectures, LRH talks about Aleister
Yeah.
Crowley and mini CIA MK Ultra techniques.
Yeah.
He does. Exactly. He absolutely does.
And if
Deanna
you
says,
look at what L. Ron Hubbard says not to look at,
yeah.
you will also get a like everything he says, don't look at this, and you look at it, you'll learn more about that too.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
Yeah.
why I love that you're diving into this stuff too. It's like it goes deep and when it needs to be exposed. It needs to be
Yeah.
shown, and that's why I like my book From Scientology to Christ, The Escape They Never Wanted Me to Make is heavy on my testimony, my story, what I experienced, but also on the witchcraft angle because I didn't find a lot of resources. I had to really research like with you with doing, I mean, God, if you write a book about that, about the
Yeah.
MK Ultra
Mhm.
CIA connection,
Yep.
specifically that, and you obviously it's
Mhm.
going to connect to the other things. Oh, I
Mhm.
would read that in a heartbeat. I don't know
Yeah.
if there is books like that out there. Maybe there is, but to clearly tie that
Right.
together, it's so eye-opening because there's so many nuanced layers to this.
Right.
And when you see how truly, truly evil it is and how it didn't just come about. It's
Right.
like that knowledge is power. People need
Right.
to know that. And certain things are going to wake certain people up to get them out
Right.
and get them to never go in. And so for
Exactly.
me, I know like if every Christian knew you cannot be a Christian and
Right.
be in Scientology because it's satanic. If someone would
Right.
have told me that straight up, although, I had my wounds and my traumas, so I don't know. If someone would have told me, maybe I still would have joined. It is. And I
Right.
married a Scientologist and I stayed in.
Yep.
Right. So coulda, shoulda, woulda. There is no repainting the past or changing it. But now knowing what I know now, I know I cannot get fooled by that same sort of technique.
Right.
And also healing the wounds is so important. That's why we talk about
Mhm.
healing, because you're right. When you do leave, you are open, you're raw. If you don't have healing, there are people who will take advantage of that too. When people leave Scientology,
Yeah.
because if you haven't healed that wound that got you there in the first place, if you haven't offered that and gone, okay, now I need to go through my healing, which takes years. It takes years. Be patient. Yeah. There is no product. There is no stats. Just be you,
Yeah.
So happy to catch us, says Sylvia Larson. Hey, Joy and Liz, Scientology up north. Deanna says, sex checks for children breach a natural boundary that children have. Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Reprise 53 says, keep going because the way out is the way through. Out to where? Well, that can be a crapshoot. That's a Scientology term. The way out is the way through. That gets you to just keep pushing through really tough, torturous auditing sessions when truly any other human being would have said, this is too much. It's not working. I'm getting out. The way out is the way through, right?
Right. And that the idea that if something, quote, turns on. So if you're, you start just a blank slate, if something turns on, grief, fear, something, hives, motion sickness, puking, doesn't matter.
Yep.
You have to keep pushing until it turns off.
Yeah.
So
what turns it on turns it off.
Right. So you could literally be driving a person into psychosis through repetition, through, fear, shame-based, whatever it is. And there is no stop for them. There is no consent. There's no safe word in Scientology.
There's no safe word.
You just have to push through. And then you're left with that damage. And either they then sell you another course to fix the damage, or you've got to kind of figure it out on your own. And you have to mentally put all that red string together. And then you have to be strong enough, or maybe strong's crazy, wild, impulsive, I don't know what the right word is, or fed up enough to basically say, I am willing to give up everything to get out of this, because I am the boiled frog that did not have a chance to say, oops, it's getting too hot. Oh no, it's getting too hot. Oh, please stop. Please stop. There's no stopping. So anyway, I just went off.
Exactly. It's so true. It's like, it's insanity.
Right.
It's
debatable whether an adult can consent to this, but I don't think it's debatable whether a child can consent to this.
It's exactly. It's debatable if how they coerce people, if it's even real consent, right? With the manipulation. But if you are under 18, zero chance that they didn't manipulate you and that they took advantage of you. Zero chance. It should be illegal to have children in Scientology. It should be illegal for anybody, but let's at least protect the children. 1000%. Like, this is pretty obvious. Yeah. As an auditor, you also, D Pistol has said some amazing things. And D Pistol, I want you to come on my show, or at least email me your story, because this is incredible. So as an auditor, he was an auditor, cannot accept an overt that was not of comparable magnitude. So you have to dig deeper and have the person give up a worse overt. It is horrible, especially for children. So when I was audited, an SA assault as a child, it happened to me at 4. I had to keep going. Like, I was audited as an adult about the situation that happened when I was 4, right? Mm-hmm. So it had to keep going until we found the thing that I did to pull it in. What did I do? Because if you got graped, you probably graped somebody else. Right. You had a comparable thing that you did to somebody else. Like we said, the humorous thing, which is humorous, but not really so humorous, when it was like you stole the candy. We made up this scenario that actually is very realistic in Scientology. We go back to your past life where you stole somebody's baby, right? Like, it's like your evil purpose was to end all families, right? Yeah. To destroy families. That is a realistic Scientology logical scenario, and that they will take that. That's not of comparable value, by the way, but in auditing, it actually is, you want to find something of comparable magnitude or value. It's actually you want to find something kind of worse. If I'm being honest, when I was auditing people, I was a master psych checker. And it's very awful that I did that to people. That was done to me, right? Brainwashed to brainwash others, someone commented. So when I would go through a session, if I found that you stole something, I'm like, let's get the nitty gritty, because my idea is I'm going to help you. Let's find the actual evil, really bad thing, so we can, like you said, blow the chain. Let's destroy every single thing so that she can be happy, so she can live a great life. I never audited children. I wasn't trained to audit children. I don't know how auditing children works, except for what I've read and heard from other people. I never wanted to audit children. I thought it was that kids were just drawing pictures, because at Mace Kingsley, that's what my stepdaughter was doing. I thought they were just drawing pictures and talking, and it was very light. Because I asked them, I said, what's child auditing? Before I was trained, and they would say, it's just light processing. They always explain it's light processing. It's just talking. You're drawing. And then she would draw pictures, and sometimes we'd see the pictures, and they were just, so it seemed very innocent. I was like, okay, I guess if L. Ron Hubbard, that's what we do. It's going to help.
Yeah. I mean, I had that done to me too. And I part of it does seem sort of lighthearted and not that big of a deal, but it's what you do with that information after that's a little crazy.
Exactly. No, it's
using it to
true.
determine someone's past life. Because a 4-year-old draws a picture of a beach. It's like, oh, you lived in Greece or
Exactly.
something. And it becomes a part of your actual lore, like who you are and your identity.
Oh, no. And they're obsessed with finding past life scenarios. You're obsessed with finding that in children, which kids will make up anything, like it's just, so somebody, okay. So Deepest also said, as a prior class 6 auditor turned Christian, praise God, torturing my PCs with sec checks is my worst regret. I completely understand, D Pistol. But Liz is so right. I believed I was helping the person, so insidiously evil. I have cried. I've had months of depression over it. Not depression, I would say. Jesus healed me of severe depression and panic attacks, but it would be severe grief over what I did to others in Scientology. And how I hurt them. And it's hard. It's hard to forgive yourself, but every Scientologist should forgive themselves when they come out, because you were a victim of this insidious, evil system that sets you up to do things to hurt people in the name of help. Yeah. And so, D Pistol, you're forgiven. You ask God for forgiveness, you're forgiven, and you're not still doing it. You're not like, okay, now I know this and I'm going to keep doing it to people. Right. That's a big difference, right? And there are people in Scientology who do that. They know they're hurting people and they like it. Right. Oh, absolutely. David Miscavige, hello. There's people who are at the top who know that this is evil. They want the control. They want the dictatorship. There is that spirit that operates in it. But you who wanted to heal and help, you didn't know. Like Liz and I have done things that we probably thought in the name of Scientology, we're helping people. Of course. Thank God. Like you said, Liz, you're like, I didn't bring my kids in. That's a miracle. But there are many moms who did, who are now out, who forgive themselves too.
Yes. I didn't want to put any shame or blame on anybody else.
You weren't.
It's just that, in our darkest moments, we hold on to certain things for ourselves. And that for me is something that I've held on to and has helped me in my darkest moments. That's not at all like a critique of anybody else, by the way, or judgment on anybody who did put their kids through this.
We know that.
Just to be clear.
We know. Exactly. And the Holy Rogue says, D Pistol, nice to meet you. I've turned to Jesus as well. I would love to hear your story sometime.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a really interesting story. Getting people to do the harm to others is actually part of the trap as well, because it's one thing to be able to come out and say what was done to you. It takes another type of strength to come out and say that you hurt, whether you meant to or not, other people, or you continue to inflict the damage. And it's really, really, really hard for people. And I totally acknowledge that. But I do want to say that is probably the most powerful thing that can be done in this space, are the people who did witness or were a part of the crimes, or the different variations of crimes, different levels. In order to say that takes such strength and character, and is probably the single most effective thing that can be done, in my opinion.
1,000%. 1,000%. I absolutely, I admit what I've done, because it's healing for me, and I've asked for forgiveness. I've asked, to God, to have gone to God, and you have to deal with that. Like D Pistol, but that's part of your healing, and it is part of the strength to then tell that story. The problem is, the enemy tries to make you feel like, oh, what you've done, just don't tell anybody, because more shame, more blame, or what you've done doesn't matter because you hurt other people. No, you need to tell those stories. Yeah, I hurt people in Scientology because I was hurt people. Hurt people. I was a victim and I was a victimizer. I'll admit that, because I got hundreds of people. I would say, I'd probably say that the people I know, I got at least 100 people in, because I got a little certificate from the Celebrity Center. But the people I influenced and affected and got to think Scientology is good, probably thousands, because I was very open with speaking about it and going on interviews and saying, this helped me, it's going to help others. I was a true convert to Scientology. I 1,000% believed it worked in its tenets, thought L. Ron Hubbard was a humanitarian. I drank the Kool-Aid, and I wanted it to be so true. I wanted it to work so much, so that when it didn't, and I was having panic attacks, depression, wanting to die, it was talk about cognitive dissonance. I'm like, but how? I've done everything they've told me. It must be me. I'm the bad one. I'm wrong. And that's what almost every single Scientologist is trained to believe. You never point the finger at Scientology. They do a great job in brainwashing.
They do.
Brilliant. Because you always think it's you. And they tell you people who do crimes is them. And if you blow, you leave the organization, you become every suppressive person who talks bad about Scientology, it's them. They couldn't hack it. They weren't clean enough. They weren't good enough. So you're like, I'm not good enough. I'm not clean enough. It's me. It's me. It's me. And that's how people end their lives. And that's why it's evil. It's a long con game. And
it is. It's a long con, like a billion-year long con. They play the long game.
So, and that's how they make their money. That's how they keep their control and their coercion. And that's how they destroy people. And if you were part of it, forgive yourself. Forgive yourself, first of all. Nobody's looking at you and judging you. You've got to tell your story after you've healed enough that you feel like you can, even making comments, watching these things, telling your story. It's so needed. That's the biggest thing that gets people not to be a Scientologist. Natalie Webster told me that. She said the biggest thing they've said when people say, well, why didn't you join Scientology? What got you out? Personal stories of having from people who've been in. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Tell it all. Hold nothing back. Because what can they do? What can man do to me? The Bible says, like, what can you do? Put up a website to, you can tell you've got a lot of harassment, but they literally can't do anything to me. But my fear can keep me quiet and ashamed. And that does more damage. If every single ex-Scientologist spoke out like Liz is doing, creating, doing stuff, Scientology would crumble. There's way more people out than in. 90% of people leave Scientology in their first year. There's more people out that have touched Scientology than that people are currently in. Right.
And many of them have similar experiences, like to the one lady I said who was flown down, and wanted to leave early to Flag to do some administrative training.
Yeah.
So she's maybe in this sort of gray zone, felt like it was uncomfortable. One person telling her their story, she'll be like, okay. Then if her grandparents, her sister, it spreads because it's real. Like it's a real danger.
It's a real, so I've got to jump off. I have an interview. I'm late.
Oh my gosh, we've been here for 2 hours.
I can't stop talking to Miss Liz. Miss Liz Gail. I love her. Deanna Ross says, I'm so proud of you ladies. We're so proud of you, Deanna. And Christy says, I'm going to have to rewind and watch. Hi, Liz Gail. Hi. Hey, Osa, your doubts are valid. I love that, Bob. Love it. The comments are so good. I'm sorry we couldn't get to all of them because.
Can I plug one little thing before we go?
Yes.
I just started a Substack, you guys. You could probably just Google Liz Gail Substack, I'm assuming. It's called Scientology and Child Development. That's my goal now, is to get a base of knowledge that is Googleable about child development practices and concepts in relation to Scientology. So if that's up your alley.
It's called Scientology Child Development?
Scientology and Child Development.
That's such a
I just started like 3 days ago, you guys.
Oh,
so
shoot, just in time.
I got 2 blog posts so far, but that's I don't know. I figure I say the same things over and over again. So this will be more in writing and more of an academic, like research tone, not just me running my mouth.
Although we love you running your mouth, Miss Liz. Miss Liz, we love it. We love a mouthy woman up here.
I know. Well, then I'm in the right place. Thank you so much for having me today. Ever since you've come out, I really admire the way that you're going about this. I think that you and I have a lot in common. I felt very kindred watching and listening to you. And I think you're very, 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 I think it's weird when people say you're brave because it's like almost like you're doing something you shouldn't. But I know that it takes courage and it takes a certain kind of strength and a certain kind of person to come out and say and acknowledge and just be in the position you're in. And I just want to give you some love about it and that I see you. And I think it's amazing.
Thank you, Liz.
Yeah.
Thank you. You make me tear up. That's beautiful. Thank you so much. Everybody check out her blog, Scientology and Child Development. Google it. Google Liz Gail. Follow, like, subscribe her channels. We love it. We're so grateful. And don't forget to get your Scientology stories emailed to the Thornton, Andrews and Thornton, which is it's the thing that's going down there, down below. And if you are listening on Spotify and you can't see it, you can email me joy@joyvilla.com and I'll send you the email addresses and put you in touch with the law firm that is going to take lawsuits and fight Scientology. Praise God. So every single story you've had, I'm telling you, they won United Nation of Islam with only 12 testimonies. They shut them down. So it doesn't take a lot, but
Right.
we want a lot. We want to flood them with, hundreds of our stories, because each and every one of your stories deserves to be heard, and you matter. I love you, Liz. You're going to definitely.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thanks, everybody. This has been amazing.
Yay. Thanks, Joy Tribe. We'll see you tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific on the Joy Villa Show. Bye. Joy Villa on the track.
So many people trying to stop me from speaking. So many people trying to keep me from thinking. But I'm awake and I'm tired of sleeping.
No going back, no going back. Mental prison, slavery of the mind. Education keeping us in line. Propaganda controls our youth. Stolen culture, broken truth.
Nothing to do with my persuasion. It's more than just a race relation.
Choose life, freedom's what you find. Break chains, free thoughts not the crime. Propaganda controls our youth. Soul culture, broken truth. Activities exposing the toxicities. Who's the truth?